Welcome back, Astro listeners, to Star Lady Soul Reader Network. This is Media Monk, and as usual, I have our shining star of the Zodiac, Star Lady. Hi, Star Lady.
Hello, Media Monk.
And we all know Star Lady is Kim Marie, the managing director for our network. We continue to certify new evolutionary astrologers worldwide, and we also provide a lot of other information and materials for newer people to the evolutionary astrology paradigm. So just go to www.evolutionaryastrology.net and peruse our forecasting webinars, take a look at the EA course, schedule your time with Star Lady and Kim Marie for a session, et cetera, call 605-348-5111 to schedule such a session and to ask any questions about our website and our products. So thanks for that. And, we decided, I think, Star Lady in pre-call, that your great Ingress Decade workshop you did for the Manitoba people up there, I think just a while back, 3-4 months ago, it's really, you did a lot of research into that thing, and it's a long-term transits, these new ingresses of major planets, going into different signs. So that product is available on the forecasting webinars page. It is a forecasting product, a long-term forecast. We want to put that on sale. We have it priced at, most of our webinars come at about $10 an hour. This is a 6-hour webinar program in 4 different parts. You get all the slides of the PowerPoint presentation. You get Kim Marie, of course, showing up there in person, and a fantastic series to kind of get your charts out and map your long-term forecasting. So the Great Ingress Decade now is priced at $40. That's 33% off. You'll find it on the forecasting webinars page, and we'll have it featured in our upcoming newsletter. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, what happens this decade is 4 outer planets ingress into new signs, and it's kind of rare, actually, for that to happen in such a short period of time. So it creates a little bit of a wild and exciting decade for us. I know most of us would like to just get beyond, at least here in the United States, we'd like to get beyond the presidential election in 2024 consuming us. Well, here's a little bit longer forecast on it. Pluto in Aquarius, 23-24. Neptune in Aries, 2025, along with Saturn. Uranus in Gemini, 2025. And finally, Chiron, which I include in the planets these days, goes into Taurus in 2026. So in a space of 4 months, or 4 years, those 4 outer planets all change signs, and it means on the collective levels, we are all going to have to get with the program and, evolve or fall behind, basically. And as we've learned sometimes in consensus consciousness, from the perspective of evolutionary astrology, we're more invested in security than we are in evolving and changing. And so these outer planetary ingresses can create those famous cataclysmic upsets that kind of force everyone to, make a leap forward. May that be so in multiple ways on the planet. I think it was yesterday I said, I'm so grateful that we only have 2.5 months of Pluto in Capricorn. Now, mind you, that comes the end of this year, smack dab in the middle of the USA presidential election. However, I still think that little transit back into the last degree of Capricorn, it's just going to show us what no longer works anymore in our world. So anyway, I was very pleased with how the 6-hour workshop turned out, and I invite you to check it out for a collective perspective and or personal perspective with your chart.
And Thank you, guys. On the forecasting webinars page of the website, the forecasting webinars page, and we'll have it in the newsletter as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Media Monk. Here we are, new moon of Pisces, March 10th at 20 degrees, and they'll be just a few degrees from Neptune finishing up its last full year in Pisces. Neptune, 165 years around the zodiac, 14 years in each sign. Neptune rules Pisces. It's finishing up a 165-year cycle of religious and spiritual evolution on the deepest levels possible. And on the deepest levels possible, Neptune really represents what EA calls that totality of consciousness, unconsciousness, or the closest archetype we have to source energy, great spirit, God, goddess, big kahuna, whatever your language is, as I like to say. And so here is that new moon finishing up in Pisces with Neptune. Sun conjuncts Neptune, by the way, March 17th at 27 degrees Pisces. And repeat that Pisces mantra. I am in wholeness with my reality. I am in wholeness, Pisces, with my reality, the Virgo polarity. And so this new moon is actually about inspiring us. What gives us the deepest meaning in our life? How are we consciously working to co-create with Universal Source? How are we making peace with this imperfect world that has us throwing our hands up in the air, or has us wanting to do the Piscean escapism and check out, and I don't want to deal with the reality in my world, I don't want to deal with what's going on the planet? And yet, with technology, Pluto Aquarius, Uranus, very soon in Gemini, we're making the world smaller and smaller and smaller on a connective level, on a consciousness level. It's almost impossible to escape what's going on the planet. So on this new moon, if you find yourself in any doldrums, in any despondency, depression, these all will fit into the Piscean world. It behooves us to do our best to go inward and ask, what is my next conversation with source energy? I'm also fond of saying I got a lot of planetary archetypes in Sagittarius and ninth house, so I'm a walking philosopher. I'm full of the cliche phrases. Thank you for understanding that. I have long said, way before Neptune in Pisces, the relationship we have with source energy is identical to the relationship we have with ourselves. And the relationship we have with ourselves is identical to the relationship we have with Universal Source. It's one and the same. It's a co-creative process. And every baby step forward we make in self-improvement, Virgo polarity, Universal Source itself also evolves. And so this is the solar month of the year to really have reflection on that. And as I've been speaking before, Saturn is balsamic Neptune for 2 years, almost 3, until their conjunction 0 Aries, February 26th. And so, as I've also said, Saturn in Pisces is a reality check. We're going along feeling like our world's okay, and then all of a sudden we hit a bump in the road and we have to take a different perspective of everything. So this new moon of Pisces, sandwiched in between Saturn, balsamic, Neptune, is a very potential opportunity to get in touch with the deepest levels of our beliefs, the deepest connection we have to source energy, how we manage to walk this physical world while still pursuing our meanings and values and desires forward in life. What can we achieve and what can we not achieve in this particular space time? That's Saturn in Pisces again. Now, Mercury is going to move into Aries just before the new moon, March 10th. We're recording this a few days early. Mercury goes into Aries March 9th through May 15th. 2 full months of Mercury in Aries. Woo-hoo, whoa, little excitement, little feistiness here. Oh, watch the tendency towards argumentativeness. Do your best with the Libra polarity of being able to listen to others and consider others. On the new moon, the next day, March 10th, Mercury is at 0.5 Aries. That evolutionary astrology mantra I created many moons ago on the solar cycle, Sun in Aries, March 19th, that mantra is, I initiate with consideration of others. I initiate with consideration of others. And so, what are you starting to get with your little, how do I say this, with the sparks of Mercury in Aries that could be coming through on the new moon, and that will continue to come through until we get to that Mercury retrograde cycle. Mercury goes retrograde April 1st, April Fool's Day, 27 Aries, direct April 25th at 16 degrees Aries. So 27 to 16 Aries is the Mercury retrograde next month in April. We're going to find we move into that pre-shadow of the Mercury retrograde coming up here. Mercury goes into pre-shadow right as the Sun ingresses Aries. And so this year, Sun in Aries, again, another time for sparks of insight. We have the north node of the moon, how our ego is evolving forward in Aries. It just had its conjunction to Chiron. Ooh, let me see if I can go back. If I got this one in my head. Sorry about that. Last month we had Mercury conjunct new moon in Aries. If I find that, I'll speak up to that one again. Point is, the inner planets travel with the sun most of the time. Mars alternates years. And so we have a lot of Aryan energy going on. Chiron is in Aries. And, heads up, when we get to the full moon, the end of March, that's going to be a lunar eclipse, 5 degrees Aries, Libra. When we get to the solar eclipse on April 8th that everybody's talking about, that solar eclipse will be 19.5 Aries, and that sun and moon will be exact to the degree and minute with Chiron, 19.5 degrees in Aries. So the solar eclipse that's going to travel across the eastern part of the U.S., and most of us can get a partial solar eclipse out there. Get your eclipse glasses or punch a hole in a piece of paper and look at the reflection of the sun through the hole onto the sidewalk so you don't hurt your eyes. That solar eclipse coming through, exact with Chiron and Aries. Are we going to fight with each other or work to collectively heal with each other? Stay tuned. We might have a feisty March and April with all of this Aryan energy. So make the most of the rest of Sun and Pisces and finding your peace in the world so that you can hold a balance through whatever happens personally and collectively. So we recently had Venus conjunct Mars. Let me go back and get that one for you. That was February 22nd at 7 degrees Aquarius. And so Venus is finishing up in Aquarius, and we're going to have the 4 inner planets all change signs between new moon, full moon. Venus is next. Venus is in Pisces, March 11th through April 4th. A little over 3 weeks. Venus follows up in Pisces. So that Piscean energy will still carry on, and Venus is our value system. Venus is giving and receiving in love. And so Venus and Pisces, I always tell people in your personal relationships, you want to be careful of projecting with Piscean energy. One of the phrases for Pisces is deny and project. If we can't handle it in ourselves, we want to deny it exists, and it gets projected out there into the world. And nowhere do we do that better than our personal relationships. Doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It can be a familial relationship, a work relationship. So Venus and Pisces, here again, what do I value? Because what we value then becomes what we desire. I have no desire whatsoever for a fancy, brand new, expensive car. It just is not in my value system. My last car finally went kaput after 18 years, and I had to replace it, but I did not buy a new car. So, point is, Venus and Pisces, what is your ultimate value system? What gives you meaning again? Then, that's Sun in Aries, March 19th, and that will be followed by Mars finishing up the inner planets. Mars is going to start to fall behind now from the inner planets. Mars moves into Pisces March 22nd through April 30th. Mars into Pisces, March 22nd through April 30th. This is where Venus is values, Mars is desires. This is where we have to move forward, working to manifest what gives us value and meaning in our life, especially as we have all this Aries energy coming up, which Mars rules, which has that annual time period with our solar cycle where we just want to initiate going after what we perceive we desire and what we want to create in our world. And so Mars Pisces, it's being able to walk our talk. It's being able to, actually be congruent in our world. I say one thing, but I do another. How do we say and do what we mean? Mars in Pisces. If we're not congruent with our beliefs and values, then we create a dichotomy, a discomfort within ourselves and our world out there. And then sooner or later, that outer reality can crash in on us a little bit. Venus is going to have its conjunction with Saturn in Pisces March 21st, 12.5 Pisces. Mars won't have a conjunction to Saturn until April 10th at about 15 Pisces. But these inner planets that are moving through Pisces, and especially Venus and Mars, and you can even, you can look at this as intimate relationships, you can expand it. As we look at Venus and Mars in Pisces, and we want, especially in intimate relationships, we want our karma mates to be soulmates. We want the spiritualization of the relationship. We want it to have deep value and meaning. As Venus, again, March 21st, and then Mars, April 10th, run into Saturn, where you will either get a positive feedback and fruition that we are working through our karma and evolving our relationships, or, as I said, we get the Saturn in Pisces reality checks. Stay tuned. We will all walk through it as best as we can. Now, we have just finished up with both Venus and Mars making their last quarter squares to Uranus. Mars is actually doing it, what is today? I lose track of my days sometimes. Okay, we're a couple of days ahead on the forecast. Mars actually makes the last quarter square to Uranus March 9th at 20 degrees Aquarius, Taurus, respectively. A little more of that feisty energy just by Mars and Uranus in the midst of this new moon. And we may have just a few surprises or upsets or rewards in our world with Uranus and Taurus. Mars' action, last quarter squares, is a crisis in consciousness, but it can be like the last quarter trines. It can bring manifestations. It can take away manifestations as well. So what are the aha moments? Mars last quarter square Uranus, March 9th, day before the new moon. What ahas are happening for you in your world? How are you having to detach in some ways and look at things from a larger picture? I went back to the beginning of the new moon. So, winding down here, there's a lot of Pisces reflections and then Aries initiations. It is the natural cycle, death and rebirth in the zodiac. What is here for you to release? What is on your horizon to initiate? Happy spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, fall equinox southern. I hope all of you are safe through these weather events we've been having. Media Monk, comments?
Yes.
Feedback?
And of course, you can fill out and expand this podcast edition. This is that natural ending cycle. You can just feel it. You can just feel, thoughts that were left undeveloped. You can just, goals that were left from last year. We all set goals around the new year. Well, really, this is the time to set new goals. And I like that idea of reinitiating and committing to those things that we truly believe and are part of us, which are our values. So if your value is to learn more about what's coming up over the next decade, get that great decade ingress workshop is what it is. 6 hours of great information now on sale for 33% off. Get all 4 PDFs, all the slides for printout, all the active media links to get the video and or the audio at any time. So you own that forever. So on behalf of Star Lady, this is Media Monk, and until next time, move with joy and passion on this ever-expanding journey to the core of our souls. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.